Petawashte to each of you. I want to greet you all that way this evening and introduce myself. My name is Sleepy Isle of Framboise. I'm Sistan Wapton, Dakota, and Tonawanda, Seneca, and I come from the Wolf Clan.
Welcome to Season 4, Episode 3 of Ouroboros Story Hour, True Tales of Healing in Altered States. This year begins our quest to take Story Hour global. I'm your host and producer, Bob Cohen. I'm a dad, writer, teacher, and blues fan. When I'm not driving myself and everyone else to distraction, I'm busy working on various writing projects. Ouroboros Story Hour is an international monthly unscripted storytelling production that features people sharing stories about experiences with healing and visionary plants, psychedelics, and consciousness hacking practices. And I will give you a heads up early on in the process that this is long form storytelling. So if you're accustomed to TikTok, short YouTube things, sit down, relax, take a deep breath, and enjoy. We're going to go deep. Our mission is to promote deep personal and societal healing and radical acceptance of ourselves and others by sharing and witnessing people's stories. While unscripted storytelling is by definition performative, we present people with stories to tell rather than performers. And because this is long form storytelling, we give the speakers the room that they need to discover their stories. And it's really quite extraordinary to watch people who are not accustomed to telling stories in front of groups as they sort of find their footing and then find their stories. And the rewards are always, I've been doing this for going on 3.5 years now. And the stories are, the rewards for having the patience and holding the space lovingly for people has been nothing short of amazing. So with that in mind, Story Hour invites anyone who has used plant medicines and psychedelics or who practices other forms of consciousness hacking. You're invited to come and share your experiences, insights. You can leave your name in the chat or leave it a comment in Facebook Live, and someone being me will get in touch with you. So he, in this space, the first timer stands on equal ground with the highly experienced. We're focused on people's experiences, not on fancy stories. So the project's growing. August marked the end of our 3rd year, and tonight we're 3 episodes deep into the 4th. And with that, we're turning our sights to going global. Our recent work with Thank You Plant Medicine, based out of Costa Rica, and World of Wisdom, which is based in Gotland, Sweden, they've shown us that there's a worldwide interest in healing plants and psychedelics and consciousness hacking practices. If you find this experience worthwhile, please like Ouroboros Story Hour on Facebook, join our online community, and above all, tell your friends. So a few reminders. We practice long-form storytelling, and we gather to co-create moments for people to share their healing journeys with open-hearted listeners. Our goal is to promote radical acceptance of others and ourselves. And I say others and ourselves because I find that in my experience, radical acceptance of ourselves is what leads to the ability to accept other people. So I like to base that work or ground that work in that space. So the stories and views expressed by the storytellers belong to the people who share them. Story Hour is a substance-free event, so we're not explicitly advocating the use of illegal substances or providing opportunities for people to obtain them. So please refrain from bringing, distributing, or selling any substances during the event. That last bit means more when we do this in a live space, but it's very important to realize that many of the substances people will talk about are not legal in lots of places in the world. So we need to respect that and understand that if we make this a place where people can score drugs, that we will get shut down. And I think it's doing it this way. We're focusing on education. It helps to kind of like keep the event pure. Now the last bit, because obviously there are always first timers and curious people coming into the space, not just experienced people. I always like to remind people that the substances that we're talking about, some people call them psychedelics, some people call them entheogenic, some people will, there are lots of different words for it, but whether they're plant-based or synthesized, they're all safe, but they're also very powerful. So if you feel called to the path, please do your own research and use good judgment. It's really important to make sure that you're with people that you can trust, and make sure that when you're sourcing this material, it comes from trustworthy places, but also ethical places, so that you're not hurting another culture, you're not hurting another environment for your ability to feel good. So tonight we have an amazing lineup. I sound like Chris Harrison from The Bachelor. It's always amazing. But tonight we have our featured storytellers are Sleepy Eye LaFramboise, NAVI GREWAL, LUZ FLANEUSE, and LORENA PATIñA ALBA. Before I set the storytellers loose, I tell a little story, or I might talk about a little something that's on my mind. And one of the things that's really been on my mind since the pandemic hit has been integration and its relationship to the frequency that I have been using these substances. So I came to medicine work very late in life. I was an unhappy camper, and all the traditional psych meds and all the therapy and all that other stuff were not working for me. And in fact, it was an act of desperation that brought me to this. I at one point literally had a rope around my neck on a ladder, and the only reason I didn't kick it out was because I didn't want my children to come home and see me. So I started on this path, and I kind of I went into this little bits at a time. So I started out microdosing, and from microdosing and getting involved with a larger community, I came to have access to ayahuasca and San Pedro, which is they're slightly different medicines, but and when that happened, I was going to ceremonies monthly, and I went on probably about a 2.5 year. The word that popped in my head that I wanted to edit out was tear. I voraciously pursued medicine work, and to the point where there were times in when I was in altered states where we oftentimes will speak of we'll personify the spirits of these medicines, and we'll talk about ayahuasca as being a grandmother's spirit, and San Pedro being a grandfather's spirit. And so you'll hear me and other people kind of refer to those conversations we have inside our heads in that way. And there came a point, probably about three or so ceremonies into a third month, where grandmother said to me, I came in with the same question, and grandmother said to me, "I've already given you the answer to that question. Go away and come back, and when you figure it out, come back next time and ask a different question, but otherwise go away." And I was a rebellious grandson, so I didn't listen, and I kept on pushing, and month after month after month, I was doing this, and the experiences were doing me a lot of good, and I was doing what we call integration work. So there's taking medicine, and then there's taking the messages that we receive from those medicine experiences and figuring out what they mean and how they apply to our lives. And so I'm making, we would say, in Western terms, Western therapy terms, I was making good progress, turning corners, having breakthroughs and all that sort of thing. But the medicine use was just lots and lots and lots, and not leaving really a whole lot of time in between to let the experiences and the messages percolate. And I mean, the journey was great. I got to meet some really cool people. In fact, tonight, my dear friend Sleepy Eye is going to be contributing. I met him in Ecuador summer before last on a vision quest, because I was going at it hard. And so it's, like I said, all the stuff has been really good. So we get into 2020. I go to a ceremony in January. Woohoo! Go to a ceremony in February. That one actually was extremely difficult. And then COVID came along. And so now here we are in November, and I have not had an opportunity. Well, that's not true. I've had opportunities to go to ceremonies, but I've elected not to because I don't think it's safe. And so it's given me this self-enforced, long stretch of time for me to really incubate and assimilate and integrate this 2.5 years of intensive medicine work. And I was bitching and complaining midway through the summer because, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I've been stuck in my house. I mean, this is, you can see I'm in my study right now. This is where I sit 12 hours a day to write and do my other work. I never leave the house. And I had been, by the summertime, I started losing my ever loving mind. It was just the isolation, the lack of stimulation. It just really sucked. And I came into the fall with that sort of mindset. And I teach college, and I'm teaching remotely, so I'm not even I'm never in the same room with human beings anymore, except for the other 3 people in my family. And long about I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, I started feeling these shifts and having these crazy dreams, and bits and pieces of the experiences that I'd had in all of those in all of those medicine experiences started popping up and manifesting and clicking in ways where like, oh, that's what that means. That's what this is. And it's been, actually, it's probably a little bit longer than that. We'll say about a month and a half. It's been really crazy. So I'm a writer, and I started out my writing life as a poet, and I wasn't trained to do it. I was just a high school underachiever, and I never read poetry. And then one day something really bad happened in my life, and I just spontaneously started writing poetry. So I kind of did that from junior, senior year of college. And then I went to graduate school and had the opportunity to study with Louis Simpson, who was a Pulitzer Prize winning poet. He loved my work. It was like I was going places. But then I had it in my mind that I should write novels and that I should write nonfiction books. So I kind of was like, yeah, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I applied I put my shoulder to the grindstone with that, and worked. So I'm sitting on some novels that I haven't had published yet. But I had this point over in this space of about 30 years where I just stopped writing altogether. It just dried up. I had nothing to say. And since I restarted my medicine work, I've reacquired my writing practice. And since 2015, I have written every day. I think I've missed 3 or 4 days since 2015. Sitting down there, I write every single day. And over the summer, a poem popped out of my head from no place. And I wasn't going to do this, but I think I actually think this was. I want to bring this into the space because it really speaks to. It really speaks to what this big shift that I'm experiencing right now that is directly linked to my medicine work. And I'm not going to read the whole poem, but there's a piece of it that I think is really important to bring into the story. So the poem is called. It was originally called "Swimming in the Ocean with God," and it begins with. I play with angel cards, so it begins with the deep blue sea speaks to you, and claims an angel card, and I'm stuck away from the salt air. But when we get to the end, and this has become sort of like the guiding. These has become the guiding principles of my writing practice now. I get to this point where I'm really questioning why I write and how I write, and I said, I have this moment of ownership where it starts like this feels like a poem, and so it became one. And then I asked the question, why must I contain my feelings? Why do I have to share them with others? What if I were to just feel my feelings freely, as they are in this moment? What if I were to abandon hill and flag? Compost the old stories to feed the new. Better yet, what if my feelings are for me instead of you? So I wrote that, and I've written probably like 30, 40 poems since since I sat down and wrote that. I just got that published this month, along with two others. And so I've had this like 30-year hiatus from publishing my poetry, not my prose, not my journalism, all that stuff, but I've had this like long hiatus from poetry, and here it is, bam! I'm sitting on. I excavated some stuff. I'm sitting on a 4,000 word 20-page poem that I've just written, and it's all happened in this space where I let go of the medicine, and I leaned into the lessons, and opened my heart and my soul to them. And so this kind of brings us, like, so I'm going to conclude here, but this kind of like brings me to a really important thing to consider when contemplating a medicine practice, or even when being in a medicine practice. Ayahuasca, LSD, mushrooms, you know, whatever it is that you're taking to alter your consciousness, there's this kind of like trope in what we call ourselves the medicine community. So there's this trope in the medicine community that you take this stuff and it's going to make you one with the earth and the universe, and it's going to heal you. And that's not true. If your work is not rooted in a practice, if your work is not rooted in integration, if you're not working with strong healers, like my friend Sleepy Eye, if you're not working with strong healers who can guide you on this path, you end up with what we call spiritual bypassing. So that's what I got for you tonight. So let's see. Sleepy Eye, would you like to lead off? I think that's kind of a great segue, because Sleepy Eye is an amazing healer, and I met him in Ecuador. And this is a kind of a crazy thing for me anyway, because I came into medicine practice as a raging materialist. I didn't believe in telepathy and all these kind of like all the spiritual dimension of this practice. But when I was in Ecuador, I was on year one of a vision quest, where I was up in the mountain. And while I was up in the mountain, it was I think my third out of 4 days. So I hadn't eaten, hadn't drunk. You know, it's out in the elements in this holy space. And the night before I came down from the mountain, I saw Sleepy Eye, and I saw him. I saw his soul. And when I came down from the mountain and broke my fast and got out of the sweat lodge and saw him there, I was like, holy shit, who are you? Where'd you come from? And it wasn't, he didn't come from here. He was like really there. And it was just, so I have really profound ties to for me, I don't know how Sleepy Eye feels, but for me, I have a very profound connection for him. So I'm going to, what are we going to say about it? So Sleepy Eye descends from the Dakota and Seneca people. He's a teacher of medicine ways and a spiritual helper to all who search of oneness within the self. And he's going to talk about the responsibilities of having a relationship with plant medicines. And I can't think of a better way to start off a night like this. So Sleepy Eye, the floor is yours.
Aho. Just say, how mataki ishtachba imakiape. The sitwa wa pintua. Willa hotumwa. Nate guazo. Tanawande. Takanonge. Anon what got neat. So Petawashte to each of you. I want to greet you all that way this evening and introduce myself. My name is Sleepy Eye LaFramboise. I'm Sistan Wapton, Dakota, and Tonawanda, Seneca. And I come from the Wolf clan. And I was named after one of my grandfathers. He was a Dakota chief, and if you ever check on Minneapolis or Minnesota, there's a town named after him, and that's who I was named after. And I'm just really thankful, brother Bob, inviting me and asking me to share a little bit tonight. I always enjoy helping the relatives and sharing some kind of good message with the folks, and especially nowadays, what's going on in the world. So I'm just really thankful you're doing this, and you've been doing this. You've been having this organization and having the story hour, and I was always, I guess, wondering if you're ever going to invite me to ask me to speak. Just kidding. But thank you, and I feel the same way towards you. And, as you know, we have a family network through our Ayapuma family. So I always consider everybody I got to meet up in that mountain up there in Ecuador as family and as relatives. So I'm really glad we've been keeping touch too, over the past few months, and then we were doing a ceremony every month, but I don't know what happened. Something kind of fizzled out or something. But I still been probably every full moon I've been at a ceremony or praying, and myself, I'm the type of person that I guess you could say I've dedicated, or I turned my life over to the Creator, and wherever He sends me, whatever He wants me to do, then that's kind of how I live my life. And I've been that way for many years, following the medicine, following the good spirit, following the fireplace, staying close to the fire, and all the creations. That's kind of how our people are, our Native American people, Native people, Indigenous people here in the Americas. Ever since the beginning of time, since as far as I know, as far as I've ever heard, our people have always been tied to the earth, tied to the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and have always had relationships with them, and kind of I guess revered ourselves as just kind of like a small part of the whole living organism, I guess you could say. Our grandmother, we call her Ushimaka, Grandmother Earth. And I'm very thankful that myself, I come from a long line of I guess you could say people of the earth, people that utilize the medicines, utilize the relationships that we have with the rocks, with the fire, with the water, with all the elements around us. And our people, they had a way. There was a way that I guess you could say all the nations, all of our tribes, all of our people, they had a certain way that from the moment that they woke up to the moment that they rested their eyes and they went to sleep, there was a certain way that they conducted themselves, a certain way that they walked, certain way that they even breathed, and used their ability to talk, to use their voice, to use their hand. I mean, it always amazes me, even like down to like just like a little shell or something, like a little necklace, or everything was done with precise precision, with intent, with craftsmanship, with art with the artisan type of attitude towards everything, their clothes, our clothes, to our home, to the way our home was made, to everything. And we didn't like I guess you could say, like, think, oh, we can do things better, or we can create this round object and then connect it to another round object and then put a box on it and then carry stuff. Like we knew that we couldn't make nothing better than what the creator already made. So that's why, like, I was I guess one of my first years at the University of Oklahoma in college, um, one of the professors said, "Oh yeah, Native Americans, they never discovered the wheel. They never they were so uncivilized. They were savages, And I was kind of shocked, that someone with a PhD would have that kind of mentality or even that way of thinking. So I ended up standing up and for our people, but he kind of tricked me a little bit because I thought about it. I was like, well, I wonder how come we didn't have the wheel and stuff like that. So I went back home and asked one of my grandpas, and he was telling me, he took me outside. He's, look over there. What do you see in the tree? I said, a nest. I said, oh, what shape is it? I said, it's round, like a circle. Oh, what is that up in the sky, burning in the sky? Oh, it's the sun. What shape is that? Oh, it's a circle. And, he started describing all these things in nature that I never even thought about, that everything was a circle. And so he began to tell me about life as like a wheel, like there's a wheel. And in that wheel, there's these spokes, and there's a pathway, and there's a certain way, like I was saying, a certain way to live your life, to walk upon this our grandmother, and to utilize her creations. So myself, I don't understand like the term or even the viewpoint of like people call our holy creations, like for instance, like peyote, like they'll call it a drug, or they make fun of it. You'll hear about it on TV, you'll see it in the movies. Like, I don't know, just I don't really try not to watch TV, but I just the other day or something, I just happened to watch like a scene on a TV. Oh, it was like, like just regular TV, and there was a scene, and I just happened to stop by and look at the TV, and then this guy was talking, and he said something like oh, I took peyote, now I can see all the colors and auras of you, or something like that. And they laughed, the audience laughed in the background, and it just kind of like hit me like, man, it's like 2020, and there's still that kind of mentality towards our grandpas. These are like our grandpas and our grandmas. So a lot of these medicines, a lot of these creations that we use, we look at them like that. We don't. I can't even. It's hard to even imagine like thinking of it like a drug. Like, oh, yeah, the doctor prescribed you these drugs, and you take a pill, take 2 pills and call me in the morning, like no, like it's not even, it's a whole different perception or view. And I didn't even realize there's, how bad off it is. And I guess in the non-native or outside of my family or my people, how they view a lot of these medicines, a lot of these creations. Like I, even when you were talking, Bob, like I heard, and I don't know how you perceive it, but I heard the word a drug, and I heard you use the word getting high, like those kind of things. Like for us, like I don't even understand. Like it's like somebody would ask me, I've been following peyote and using about like almost 30 years now, and I got to learn and be around all grandpas and grandmas, a lot of old people, and there's their mentality, the way they viewed, the way it was like it was never like a drug or I got a high, or I mean they would say the medicine got a hold of me or something like that, but um yeah, so I guess that's probably the number one place where to start, like from the very beginning. If you guys want to talk about plant medicines and and I guess all the medicine. I mean, that's the key word. We call them pajuta, and that pajuta, that's what it is, medicine, and so when you look at it and you have that mentality and that way of thinking, then that's like the very beginning. Like, I mean, when you're going into having a relationship with any of the plant medicines, and even down to like sage or cedar or any of the plants, if you're going to make a tea, you're going to boil some tea, anything, even when you eat a salad, when you're cutting a tomato or something, or it's kind of like even those are kind of like our relatives, and that's why when we eat, we always like make a prayer. We always say a word of prayer. We'll even sometimes talk to the food, or acknowledge what we're eating, and use it in that in a good way. And I always share with the relatives that even like just your child, that um that that's where everything should start, is when you have a baby, is just right with at the dinner table. Teach them about food, the connection to food. And I'm so learning, of all the different diets out there. Like I didn't know, like so many people are into so many ways of eating healthy and to change their diet. And I'm thankful for the plant medicines because they kind of been helping me, and especially now, like with what's going on and everything, like it's even more and more critical, more than ever, that we identify our connection to the plants, to the plant kingdom, to the animal kingdom, that we can't ignore it anymore. People just live their life with no concept, no thought about it, no they just eat and it's whatever. They don't even think about it. So I guess here lately in the past few years, I guess one of the messages that I would like to share in this story hour here is that I'm realizing that all the plants, the plant medicine, all the plants, all the animals, they're coming together, and they're trying to talk to us. They're trying to get us to open our eyes. Look what you're doing. Look what you're doing to yourself. All the plants, the medicines, they're coming together, and they're even going as far as to choosing certain people to connect with, to open their hearts and their minds, to have a sense of responsibility, I guess you could say, a sense of um, understanding our roles as as I know it, as I understand it. We are guardians. We're guardians of the earth. We're protectors of the water. We're defenders of the air. That's our job. That's our responsibility, our mindset when we come into the world. That's, I guess, that was like the number one teaching, as that our people had when a child was born. And the first element, I always try to share these our connection to the elements as human beings, not just a native, a Dakota and Seneca person, but just as a human being, we all have a divine connection and I guess you could say makeup, our makeup, our DNA. We have ancient memory of DNA of it's within us. It's within every single person. We all have a connection to the water, to the air, to the earth, and to the land. And some of us have it more than others. Some of it, like we have to be outside. We have to be working with animals. We have to be working with plants or medicines. We have to be close to the fireplace, and we have to be of service. We have to help people. We can't just sit around and take care of ourselves and just kind of like be like this. No, some of us, we have a heart. Our heart is open to be having care and compassion towards our fellow relatives. But now it's to the time where we got to extend that out to our relatives, to the four-legged, to the winged, to all of our medicines, all of our plants. And I guess, I just wanted to share as far as, a story goes. And I guess one story I heard somewhere way back there, and one of my relatives shared with me was a time when there was no before the white man came over here and brought disease and sickness and all this negative, I guess, energy, if you want to say, and I guess the whole evil. They brought a evil system, the colonial way of thinking that was forced. They tried everything in their book, everything they can imagine to try to force our indigenous people to be subjugated to that belief system. And to this day, 2020, and over 500 years, our people, they're still holding on to these ancient ways, ancient beliefs, ancient system. And I always liked this story I heard of this native. He was in his village long before, white people came, and there was a famine that came through, and where they were, there was no food, and they were all struggling. The people were barely getting by, and one of the guys, he wanted to help, so he went up to a mountain. And one of the beliefs we have is the only thing we own in this world is our bodies. So he went up there to give up any more food or water. He went on a fast, and he fasted for days, and still no vision, no message, no no guidance. And days went by. He went some more, and still nothing. And so finally he like cut off part of his pinky, and he made the offering, into the creator. And just then, he looked into the open plain, and right there was a hole. And that hole, it opened up, and in that hole, all the buffalo came, and they went into that hole. And pretty soon the eagle, and pretty soon the buffalo, I mean the wolf. And then later on, then he's seen these other creatures kind of come out of that hole, like something with real big horns, like it was a cow or cattle came out of that hole. And then pretty soon, uh, as time went on, then uh, he looked, and some kind of like a bird, little bird came out of that hole, went up into the air, and then he looked, and some kind of uh, a spider came across the sky and put all these lines that looked like a web over the sky. And then as he looked closer, where all that cattle was, and there was these fences. He didn't know what they were, but there was these fences, these lines, all across down way down the prairie. It divided up all the land. He's seen all that, and then and so he didn't know what to make of it, and he made a prayer. He made a prayer, and pretty soon he's seen all out of that hole there. Pretty soon the buffalo started coming back, and he seen the people that were joining hands, and they like made a circle, and when they did that, then in that circle there the buffalo started coming back, and then the eagles came back, and the wolves came back, and so he's seen all that, and then he came back and he told his old people, and he told them what happened. And so they told that young man, he said that they had to get ready. They had to get ready, and they had to hold on to their. They had certain ceremonies, certain songs, certain dance, certain ways that they had to hold on to. He said, if we hold on to that, he said, whenever that time comes, he said, we're gonna share it, and then we're gonna all unite, and then the creations are gonna come back and they're gonna help us. So I heard that story, when I was a kid, and probably one of the most amazing things about that story I always liked was that boy. There was a boy that he did that, and he was only 7 years old. He had that kind of love for his people to go up there and try to make a difference, want to make a help. So sometimes I would share that story with young people and let them know that no matter what age you are, you can make a difference. You can make a change for humanity. So I just wanted to, I guess, share that story, and just say thank you again to each of you for being here, and I just think that we're getting to this day and age where that's exactly what's going to have to take place. Our people are going to have to reach out and extend a helping hand to each and every one of the relatives, and make a way for future generations. And there's I guess one of the things that I want to share. In the past few years, I got to meet relatives from South America and Central America, and I got to meet I got to meet some relatives from down there, and I got to get introduced to their medicines, different medicines that I never heard of, that I never even knew that existed. I never knew even the capabilities of some of the medicines. And I guess you could say that my first experience with Yahe, or ayahuasca totally changed my life without a doubt, and like I said, I've followed peyote, 30 years. I've been around all our native ceremonies all our life, but I didn't, probably the last 30, close to 30 years, I took it serious, and, as best I could, and stayed close to the elders, stayed close to the fireplace. And nowadays, a lot of our elders are gone, and I always tried to wonder, the last few years, where am I going to learn from? And next thing you know, I got introduced to our relative from South America, and that holy medicine has totally changed my life to the point where I can see how our relatives, when I say relatives, I'm referring to like our Eagle Nation. Then we have all kinds of other nations out there. We have a Bear Nation, and I got one of my brothers online here, and he understands the Bear Nation. He's a caretaker of of a live bear, a real bear, and those kind of things, that go on. Some of us, we're really close to even maybe a cat, or or we have a certain plant we like in our house, or a certain tree, or a rock, or a certain place we're drawn to. And some of those things, they tug at us, and they're trying to like pull us. And like sometimes, some of us, you just find yourself at a ceremony, and you're like, how did I end up here? And it's kind of like a spiritual way that we are involved with, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter how you was raised. We all are in a spiritual realm, but our mind knows, or what we see, is the physical part. But once you begin to understand, who you are as a light being, as an everlasting source of energy, as a creation of the Almighty, however you want to view it. But once you begin to understand and know that, whoa, I'm not just this body, I'm not just, there's something else besides just this physical being, this physical aspect of who I am. And I guess that's probably one of the teachings that our relatives have instilled within us, is that our creator, he loves us so much that he gave us, our relatives through the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. And then outside of the plant kingdom and animal kingdom, then we have the elements that we're made out of. And those elements are kind of like our guardians. All we got to do is turn to them, and they'll help us. Learn to breathe. Just breathe. Learn to breathe when you're get stressed out or you're worried. And I'm always thankful. My wife's been helping me to learn about meditation, and there's a certain way you can meditate. And I'm excited. There's so many ways, modalities out there that people are striving every kind of which way to be healthy, to expand your mind, to get rid of your hurts, your pains, to eat healthier, to be a self-sustainable community. And I guess the message I wanted to share that I learned, all these few years of being connected to medicines and the plants and the creations, the elements, is that, like I said, they're working together right now to open up our hearts and our minds. And even just having these kind of discussions, even the fact that cannabis is being recognized as a medicine, to even, you know, all these movements that are taking place. People are being woke. uh, even I already knew about but I just heard of the term star children, star people that are connected to this unknown wisdom. And that's many of you, that if you're drawn towards the medicine, towards it's already in you. It's already something that's we're the ones that are going to have to kind of like be the teachers. So when you take a medicine, when you go to a ceremony, just like Bob was, we have to integrate it. We got to learn to incorporate it and be better, be strong. There's so many people that are lost, they don't have no idea. They have no idea that we don't have to be in pain. We don't have to be in misery. There's people out there that think, you know, positive, that are can smile every day, and you know that no matter what, something comes our way, we keep going. We reach out, we say, hey, how's it going? We need some help. You know, something, anything, like, you know, but we don't give up. We just keep moving forward. And I guess that was the message I wanted to share here, that, you know, if you you know, utilize plant medicine, which everybody should use. Everybody probably does use plant medicine in one shape, form, or fashion. And I just wanted to share that the medicine of all medicines is right here. You guys probably can't see, but it's mini wachoni, you know, water of life, you know, mini. This is the ultimate medicine right here. And without this, none of us will be here. None of the plants, none of the animals, none of that. So I think it's time now that our people, our nations, the world has to listen, needs to, I guess, listen to indigenous, the native people here, because all since they came over here, our voice has always been pushed aside. It's always been put on the back burner. Even nowadays, 2020, still today, we're still pushed over here. We've never had a national, international voice to stand up for the earth and the water. So we need your help. We need all the help from all nations, all people, and we're gonna make a difference. And we need to stand up for the water. And someday here, within our lifetime, and this is the message, I guess, that I wanted to share, that I got from the medicines, is that we need to make a world with free energy. People don't need to be wasting their whole life for electricity, to have a roof over. We're at a time in with this is supposed to be a civilization. We're supposed to be sophisticated. So we have the technology, you know, and it's time, you know. Our cars should be driving with we don't have to pay for gas. We shouldn't have to, none of that. We should be at a time of enlightenment where all human beings can spend their life getting enlightened, helping each other, being healthy, living good, making a better, cleaner world for our future generations. So I just wanted to say that. I didn't mean to get all the way over there, but just following spirit, and just sharing, you know, what spirit wanted me to share with you guys. And I didn't even know what I was going to say, to be honest, Bob. I didn't really prepare or nothing. So, but I just shared it from my heart, and what came from spirit. And I just want to say thank you. I got to go. I can't really listen anymore, Bob. We're going to do a blessing for one of the relatives in their home. We help relatives. I've been helping even way before the COVID and everything, you know, so many different ways. But somebody needs help this evening, so we're going to head over there and help them out. But thank you guys for listening, and maybe someday I might meet some of you guys. And I think I don't know really know who's on here. There's, you know, my coda down there, and then I think I had a sister on here, and I think Chana's on here. All right. Oh my gosh, Chana, can you say a little bit to the relatives after I leave, if she's on here? That's my wife, and she
Oh,
definitely has good things to say, but she might not want to either. But if she does, she can. But I just wanted to say thank you again, Bob, and I wanted to let you know that as you continue to share the messages, and just remember to think of these plant medicines as our relatives. These are, you know, these like your own grandpa, your own grandma. You know, how would you treat them? How do you, you know, if you're going to partake of them, then you have a responsibility. You can't just, like Bob was saying, oh, wow, cool, awesome. No, none of that. No, keep focused on your spirit, keep focused on the creator, keep focused on why we're here, what we're supposed to do as human beings, because we're all connected, we're all one. So, in our language, we have a word we say, and it covers everything, and it says we're all related. And that's not just as humans, but even all throughout the universe, we're all related. Aho mitakyase. So just then, God bless you guys.
thanks,
Aho.
brother. So if you're just tuning in, welcome to season 4, episode 3 of Ouroboros Story Hour, True Tales of Healing in Altered States. Our mission is to promote deep and personal societal healing and radical acceptance by sharing and witnessing people's stories. Next up scheduled is Navi Grewal. Navi, are you going to be able to
Yeah,
hang for your story?
yeah,
Got
I
it?
think I should be able to tell my story. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. All right. So let me pivot here. So Navi has been a facilitator in the psychedelic space for just over a year now, and has been working with plant medicines for over 10 years in the cannabis industry. His guides are psilocybin mushrooms, but he's planning to tell a story about the experience he's had with LSD. So without any further ado, Navi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bob. This story, I guess, it takes place maybe 3 or 4 years ago, before I took psychedelics in a ceremonial setting. It was at a festival, and I'm not a big fan of LSD, but I like it when I used to combine it with other drugs. Um, and this is kind of when I used to do other drugs too. So this is like a different person, how I was back then. So this festival, it's on. It's it's basically the music starts at 8 p.m. on that night, and so I take this LSD dose that I took it maybe an hour before the music was supposed to start, because I didn't want, for me, like when I'm on LSD, it causes me to be very, very anxious. Actually, most psychedelics cause me some bit of anxiety. So I'm like, perfect, I'll take it. And when the music starts, that's when it'll kick in, and I'll be totally fine. Because once the music starts, I'm okay. I'm not really in my own head. Little did I know that the music was delayed by an hour or something. So this is kicking in. There's a large group of people. I'm with some friends, and this lady that I'm into, and it's just like hitting me so hard, and I'm starting to kind of freak out, because I'm like checking my phone. I'm like, what's going on? The music had started, and then we start going for a walk, and then I run into this guy that I don't like whatsoever. And this guy, at this point, I I think I'm like I'm like, am I seeing things or what? Because this guy, his head turned into a parasite, and he was totally hitting on a girl that I was with, and I was like freaking out. And then immediately after she starts talking to him, she's like, this guy is like a parasite. So exactly what I was thinking, she saw, and then eventually I was like freaking out even more. I'm like, hey, you know what? I got to go back to my tent and just and just be alone. But on the way back, I actually ended up taking like a detour, and I ended up kind of in the woods. And as I'm walking in the wood in the night, all the shadows, they start talking to me. All the trees start talking to me. Like all these different ghosts and things are like kind of following me, and I'm freaking out even more big time. I'm like, oh my god, I'm having this severe anxiety attack. I don't know what to do. I can't be alone. I can't be around people. I can't be anywhere. I can't even be in my own head. And I get to a point where I feel like the world is like coming down on me, and then I hear a voice, and it's the LSD spirit that's talking to me. It says, "Only you can take away what you give yourself." And then I'm like, interesting. So I kind of think on that thought, and then I realize that I get it. The LSD didn't give me anxiety. I gave myself anxiety, and I don't know exactly what it was, but when I kind of realized that, all of the stress that I had, all of the anxiety that I had, all of the fear that I had was gone. So now I was actually I was really enjoying seeing the trees move, seeing the shadows that were all around me, seeing all these different beings and entities that were everywhere. And at this point, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm finally okay to find my friends again and join the group. So I kind of go back on the trail, and as I'm going back on the trail, I'm like, you know what? I have to go to the washroom and do the porta potty. So I go into the porta potty, and when I close the door, I'm teleported to another dimension or another reality, and I see myself on the floor as a crack addict, and I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And then the spirit of LSD is like, this is what will happen if you give your friend, so basically what the spirit of LSD said is, this is what will happen to you if you hook up a certain friend with cocaine. And I'm like, I don't do cocaine, and neither does this guy. But it just made me promise. It said, just promise me you won't do this, otherwise this is where you end up. And this is a really good friend of mine. I'm like, okay, sure, no problem. It makes no sense because this guy's never, as far as I've known, he's never done it, and he's never asked me for it. So I make that promise with the spirit, just out of general principle and just out of fear, because I don't want to end up that way anyways. And after the festival, because I work in a cannabis space, so a friend actually come to his house, and he basically calls me over. He's like, I need some weed. Can you hook me up? I'm like, sure. I know it's for growers. I went to his place, and I didn't know that another friend of his was coming over, and apparently this friend of his that I met, who I exchanged information with, he told me, like, I'm actually like, he's like, this friend of mine is like has the best coke in the world and the best prices in the world, right? Navi has the best weed. This guy has the best coke and the best prices. If you ever need anything wholesale, go to this guy. He's solid. And that friend of mine, who the spirit told me to not sell coke to, for 2 weeks straight, called me asking me for a cocaine link. And I ended up deleting that guy's phone number, who was a big time dealer, because I was like, this is a crazy coincidence. So needless to say, I listened to the spirit, and I didn't end up doing anything, and thank goodness. So that's my story.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Navi. So Navi, I met over the summer at an event that I co-produced with the Costa Rica-based Thank You Plant Medicine, at an event that nominally took place in Sweden. And so it's been the thing that's really blown up Story Hour. I went from this regional thing to now we have people from all over the place. So I appreciate
Thank you so much.
I appreciate your coming. If you're just tuning in, welcome to Season 4, Episode 3 of Ouroboros Story Hour, True Tales of Healing in Altered States. Our mission is to promote deep personal and societal healing and radical acceptance by sharing and witnessing people's stories. So far, we've heard stories from me and from Sleepy Eye, from Navi, and we're up next is Lorena Lori Patiña Alba. Did I get that right? Brilliant. So let me, we'll talk a little bit about Lori. She was born in Mexico and educated in communications and is a traditionally trained medicine woman, ceremonialist, teacher, and practitioner of ancestral rituals. So there's a theme here about going back to the basics, going to our roots for the medicine practice. She refers to herself as a Mexican medicine woman and environmental activist. So she's she lives in Mexico, though she's here visiting the States on Long Island, which is where I'm from. So we have these wonderful deep connections. She heals through Okanabane and Maya, ancient paths from Aztec, Zapotec, and Maya people. Sorry, I'm murdering the Spanish. She's best known for her leading role in organizing tribal practices as a priestess of Mexico's heritage, living roots of light with indigenous and ethnic sacred rituals. She practices healing arts, traditional medicine ceremonies. She's an unconventional herbalist, which is one of my favorite things, an alchemist of medicinal ritual cacao. She works with diverse sacred dances, oracles, art therapy workshops, Temazcali Sweat Lodge, love Temazcals. She's a specialist in pre-Hispanic gastronomy and indigenous culinary traditions and medicinal cuisine. She is the guardian of Zamna's temple, Mayan god for, I can never do this one.
Which one?
Coachapili, Prince of the Flowers, Aztec god. So Lori plans to share a story about entheogenic experiences using plant medicine. So without further ado, Lori.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. It's so good to be here and to meet new persons and interesting relations. I was listening about the Sleepy Eye and I was thinking like many things he said about the current situations in the communities. Like I think this year we are all like struggling with emotions in different ways. Like I think like we put all the frustrations of the daily things or like in parties, dancing, go to a coffee or coffee place, going to the library or just taking a walk. And this year have been really curious how we put the energy or the frustrations in other people or other people's putting on us. So I think the way I feel this year and my participation with the community as a activist and healer sometimes is like I want to be in touch with the nature and escape and go camping or okay, let's go. And we put everything like a sweat lodge, like 3 guys. Like, this is a place. Dig this hole. I checking the compass in the phone and yes, we have wood, let's do it. And all right, if I have a medicine with me in my backpack or in my with me, like I have a project in education that allows me to travel and different residencies like art events. But this year I focused totally into myself and the meditation, and I realized like I'm really not on balance. So I was like, all right, like everybody, I start my quarantine in last August for a personal journey as a caregiver with my dad. And I was totally in the consultory with him. And I was like, all right, I need to do my meditations in full moon, new moon. And then I escape a little bit in January and February to a project in Caribe with the Mayan communities, and I feel a really, really intense wave of the dead. And I was like, this is not like the normal wave of the dead, like this is stronger. I recognize that was something like a dying in many different layers of the reality. And I decide like study more about the rituals of death, or more like trying to understand how to speak with people about the spiritual world, and to support the the community of thank you plant medicine, to be out of the closet of the psychedelics experience, or the uses of medicine, or master plants, or entheogens, or narcotics. So I was thinking like many people struggling with to be open with that. And in this path, or in the journey to take these drugs, many people die, or many people die in their experience using cambo, or using the toe, or ayahuasca, or even in the case of Mexico, I didn't know nothing died from peyote, but the others were like uh, people that were possessed with the black peyote, or is like the demon peyote. Is like a kind of peyote, but it has an spirit that is evil and possess the other person. No? So all these like a kind of things, like I was like, not everything is so luminous, or like this journey is not always like beautiful, or like with lights. No, I think like it's really, really intense. For me, that I have been working in places that are really intense, like in Italy, in Mexico, or I in Poland and Croatia, that were places that were like many, many wars. Now in Long Island too, from this period of 4 years, I have been feeling all this heritage of the land, of all this like colonialism. And it's interesting how the Native American roots are really strong. And I think like this new situation post-COVID that we're gonna have in probably 2 or 3 years, like I hope, like every day I feel like this needs to be over, like, but the real truth is like wherever I go is like a empty. It's like okay, and then so I like other activities, or they invite me to a meditation, and it's like 3 persons. And nobody wants to hug you, or then they ask you to be in some place, and they give you to make the test of COVID. So the nervous of to have this test, or like, okay, I'm gonna be to this interview, but they don't allow me if I don't have the test. Oh, okay, so and the test is online too with an interview, so it's a little weird like to have this fusion of our soul, spirit, um the society, and also how to continue. So I decided to keep on the prayers. I think I have been praying and doing my meditations. Starting like also being like sober, and from March I stopped everything. Like I was sometimes with my friends, and I was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And like, "Oh, this is a yaje ceremony. Oh, do you want rapé? Oh, or you want ayahuasca? Oh, I'll give you a choco mushroom." And I was like, "No." I'm clean. I'm sober. Like because I was receiving so many ideas of the death. No, like oh no, and sadly, many people died that I know, that I knew, that I work with, and my relatives and friends. Many of them with COVID. I feel like some of them uh, have another attitude, like a life is short and they didn't like to be sick. Um, so I think like it's okay if we speak open also from these like transitions of episodes of light, of death. And I think like we need to also speak about that, to really open in the therapy or in the integration from the psychedelics. I think it's really important to teach the people that, and the oracles, when you have your information of your astral chart, or together with the Mayan king, or together with your Aztec thing, or even more in deep from your your signature or your cosmic information. You can access what is your mission, where are you going, or your path. So I think that for this period of time, I asked for the universe, like, oh, what I'm feeling this, because it's a period of crying or to release. Like, I have so many activities that are the release emotions, and it's like screaming or speaking or singing. But I want to sing what is this medicine circle, or healing, especially because we are like praying with the altars. um and I was not like a feeling to sing right now. I was trying to listen and to catch this information that was coming to me. Like, I feel the medicines were like, you need medicines. You cannot be rejecting the power of medicine. And I was like, no, but I don't want. People is struggling. Like trying to be like, oh no, I don't deserve it. This is not good. It's really high. I cannot having fun. And, but then a friend of mine that had the COVID invites me to be with her and to plan another kind of. She invites me to do a prayer for closing her cycle in her family. She was moving, and we do a ceremony. So it's a really good place that is near to the mushrooms in Mexico, the magical mushroom, medicinal mushroom. So I took them and I pray. And like you said, it's always people that is the first time, and they're like, can you hold a prayer? And okay, we do the prayer, we do the medicine circle, we do it in the sacred way. And like this is an offering too, also. So the spirits are coming and they are telling you how to process different information. So this time was really good. Was totally different that I was expecting. And I feel really the relief from this introspection I have. I feel I was not really potent like other situations or other stories that it's like, oh, you are losing control of yourself, or everything is liquid or colorful or shaking your body. No, this was really, really good. Different things happen, like uh, examine how the Mother Earth is also asking for to be more sacred, to put more elements that makes the things more like uh, in this relationship, not so materialistic, no more like a concert, no more like oh, I sell you these, or like trying to give us that like the medicine is like trying to reconnect with the real truth that you need to heal. And okay, if you go to the forest you can find the medicine, if you go to the jungle you can find the medicine, of if you really really are struggling with some kind of addiction. All right, be honest with yourself and say like, I probably need to take a workshop before to do really strong healing with persons that are working with MAPS Association or another institutes that they're providing other kind of medicines that can help you, or substances. So I was thinking like, all right, you need to be more in the service for this. And last 2 weeks I returned to myself like, all right, I need to put something in my body that is natural medicine. But I don't want like CBD drops, or I don't want like, oh, I'm gonna eat a mushroom. I do the LSD, or I think the situation is really, really intense right now to start like trying to uh, open more doors that I'm not ready to cross. I think like, okay, I'm really happy doing my art things, my artist things. I'm not spending so much time on social media. That is really good. I'm in the nature. I walk to the beach. Um, I spend time driving, like, or going, like, okay. And I realized, like, the world is really different. And good points from COVID as, like, people is more connected. Families are, like, getting closer, even if it's, like, virtually. I think others stop like fighting, and they're like more like a conscious, like, okay, I cannot yell all the time in the video or in the phone. So I in my experience, like others that were so anger or really sad, or complaining about everything about the system with the COVID are like a little bit more sensitive, and others are still anger. I perceive there's frustrations come to me, or all right, we are on a filter, we are on a sponge, and we need to squish all that and process every day. And I think the moons are helping. It was a really intense moon from the Halloween. That's it. That's the journey, and I returned to smoke a little spliff with my friend after 8 months, and it was really intense. I was like, I know, I remember tobacco is the strongest medicine ever. So I think like praying with intention is always helpful. um if you can change your habit, like no more plastic, or to choose something more natural or local, like a juices or a sandwich or a bread or whatever you can get this artisanal, can you bring you that energy that is natural So I feel like I'm learning from my own journey to this world is not ending. It's not ending yet. So I'm happy, I'm positive for this. I think many people is interested in shamanism, on tarot, or everything is more related with uh, save their lives. I think like people is like, I want to be safe. I don't want to die today. Today. And others are really responsible on how they are holding the ceremonies in ayahuasca, or I think other people are really conscious about to hold the spaces, but the real truth is like we have a challenge to help still the native groups, the indigenous tribes, and in between that realities, I think like these programs, these Zoom reunions can be there as a archive for to analyze what we need to do and approach with more um, educative platforms. So thank you very much, Bob, and thank you very much for everybody is here. And I think like we are not alone, but this is another subject about the UFOs or the moon.
All right, all right.
Really,
Lori,
really.
Lori, thank you so much. Wonderful. It's wonderful to have you in the storytelling space again. If you're just tuning in, welcome to season 4 of episode 3 of Ouroboros Story Hour. True Tales of Healing in Altered States. Our mission is to promote deep personal and societal healing and radical acceptance by sharing and witnessing people's stories. So wonderful. We have heard tonight so far from Sleepy Eye, from Navi, from Lori, and last and certainly not least is another dear friend, Luz Flaneuze. And let's see what she is. She comes from a rich lineage of musicians, teachers, healers, and storytellers. A Flaneuze is someone who wanders for the pleasure of it. Luz's original last name means to wander around and get lost or to look at things sideways. And while I was getting ready to introduce you, I have the Oxford English Dictionary at my fingertips. And for some reason, I thought that was a Portuguese word. So I quickly looked it up and I see indeed it means what you say and it's English. So way cool. Thanks. So she plans to tell her tale of navigating the cosmos for joy, pleasure, and self-knowledge, getting lost and found, and looking at things sideways. But just before I turn the floor back over to Luz, I want to mention that she was at my first ayahuasca journey when I was lost and a mess and could hardly function. And she was one of the people that loved me through that experience. It was really difficult. I had no idea what the hell I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I did it. And she helped make it a wonderful experience. And she and I have been in ceremonial space numerous times ever since. And she's always one of those people that I look for when we're dancing to help keep me grounded. And so for that, I thank you very much. And I thank you very much for offering up your talents and your story tonight, Liz. Love you.
Love you too, Bob. Thanks for having me, and thank you all for being here. Great to hear from you tonight, Stan and Lorena, and belated thanks to CPI. So, well, I have a story, like story time. So if you like to close your eyes during a story, close your eyes. Just sit back and get comfortable. And it begins something like this. Once upon a time, or era uma vez. As it begins, You see a deep leafy thicket dappled with light and shadows, and you glimpse 4 columns establishing a pavilion of sun. This is the home base. This is the opening portal that connects you with the elements of nature and delineates a boundary line. May all that enters here be the vibration of divine harmony. Beyond God, beyond personifications of nature, is nature itself, the pulsating hum that animates everyone and everything, and thus you declare yourself to be an aspect of nature. You invite in your guardians to safeguard you and employ their discernment to keep you oriented on the path of growth, forgiveness, and wisdom. At first, nothing. Then you notice the increasingly painterly quality of the light. The rich greens and browns are like oil paintings by the Dutch masters, lit from within and lit from without as each person is growing a halo. It's beautiful, but it's increasing in its intensity, and it's almost more color, light, and detail than your system can hold. Blink once, and you can hear the blood pounding steadily through your veins and in your head, and you think reflexively, there's nothing that stops me from dying at any time. You wonder if you're ready to die, and you decide, if it is now, it is now. You enter a darkened hallway that gives way to a large bathtub, which you climb into, and then you are in the lush jungle out of Rousseau's The Dream, and your heart pounds faster as you realize you are running at top speed through the jungle, running for your life, and also running for the sheer pleasure of your own locomotion. You are not clear on whether you are the pursuer or the pursued, and then you will see you are both simultaneously. You are running with your former lover, sometimes together, sometimes being chased, sometimes chasing, and you cannot wait to devour and be devoured. And then suddenly he stops running, turns to face you, and stretches out his hands to you in a gesture of supplication. His love for you is endless, and it will never be exclusively for you. You feel sad, happy, and complete. You are in a dark, cluttered, dusty, musty attic, and the yellowish, dim lighting makes you queasy. It's dull, defective, and it never changes. The thought of spending another moment there makes your skin crawl. You go down the stairs and you look out the window and you see the canal flowing by under a golden twilight sky, and a large cruise ship is coming into view. It's a ship made out of blue and golden layer cake with a slice cut out of it upon which rests a serenely smiling face, comically exaggerated eyelashes, and a red lipstick mouth. You can hold a cup of tea, and you feel immensely grateful for the slow, peaceful, light-filled quality of your thoughts. And then you notice you haven't breathed in a long time, and it's beginning to make your chest constrict and your jaw tingle and lock. You wonder if you can remember how to breathe, and no matter how deeply you inhale, it seems as though you can never get enough oxygen into your lungs and bloodstream. You are told later this is entirely psychological. This feeling of not getting enough air. You wonder what exactly you were doing here, and if this is really what you intended to be doing. Is this the experience you were looking for? You begin an inner debate with yourself about whether or not any of this is real. You close your eyes, and a Ferris wheel in the darkness is being ridden by neon Day of the Dead skeletons, spinning faster and faster until it is whirling so fast that it becomes a never-ending fireworks display of exploding colored lights. You change the position of your head, and a leering, early era Walt Disney version of Uncle Sam appears with a cat of nine tails in his hand, calling a cowering group of servants to line up, whereupon he either slaps them across the face or spanks their ass with a cat of nine tails, and then fucks them up the ass with his comically large red cartoon penis. I notice with disappointment that Uncle Sam is circumcised, and the head of his comically large red cartoon penis turns into a red and white mushroom cap. And I reflect on how drenched in blood the United States is, how the land is drenched in blood, and how the legacy of slavery, racism, colonialism, exploitation, and thievery poisons everyone and everything. This world is just one possible world of an infinite number of worlds, simultaneously being created, being destroyed, and in existence. And there are other saner worlds than this one. And this is the beginning of making contact with them. I stand by the fire under the hot sun with my hands outstretched. It's good to feel the intensity of the heat and then feel the shadow as we dance around the fire. I see that all energy is a whirling bundle of twigs that are constantly in circulation, and are being used in multiple levels all at the same time. The bundle of twigs we receive, which contains our soul essence material, does not belong to us and is in constant circulation, updating itself as it comes into contact with other bundles and exchanges parts of itself with parts of other bundles. Thus, we cannot truly say we have a soul, or a soul that belongs to us exclusively, but rather there is the soul. The soul material in our bundle drops in and out of this and other worlds with frequency. I drop into a life, a reality that the soul is experiencing, and I am a woman tending to her bedridden husband who's been sick for some time. I see myself standing by the side of the bed, bringing him a hot drink, feeling my familiar yet unfamiliar habitual thoughts and feelings, and I walk down the hallway of my home that I've never been in. This too is my life. When I am granted witness to these other parallel realities that I am participating in, I become dispassionate. I just watch and observe without attachment. I travel beyond the material world and I enter the shadow hospital, a vast, ghostly, ever-expanding building constructed of light, filled with an unending amount of patients. And the doctors and nurses are sick as well, but just well enough to take care of the patients. This is their healing and evolution to provide light in the light hospital. I hear the sounds that make me realize that I am in the shadow house of my lover's ancestors. The insistent tapping on the door and the windows and the whistling. That sound tells me that they are here. And as soon as I hear it, I go on high alert. I'm not sure if it's fear or if it's the sensation that comes right before fear. The knocking and whistling says, be ready to react quickly because things are not what they seem. And I get in a flash his genetic predisposition to depression and the deep wound his father's treatment of his mother when they were breaking up inflicted upon him. The tapping and whistling become louder and more persistent. And then I see his face. His eyes are rolling back in his head. The tapping and the whistling is the function of the entities that surround him to keep him in confusion and also to scare other people off. It's not malevolent, but it's also not particularly illuminated either. Again, the knocking and the whistling spells out things are not what they seem, and a resolve to release them with love, feeling a little as though I've narrowly avoided disaster. I run out of the house, and it's twilight heading into night, and I fall into a deep pit in the yard, and I can't get out. This pit has tape loops of everything I regret, everything that makes me powerless, everything that makes me feel ashamed, Some replays of events that actually happened, others are stylized story versions of themes running through my life to keep me mired in anxiety and always expecting the worst. Running the tapes is like pushing a loose tooth with the tongue or picking at a scab. There's a perverse pleasure in the unrelenting misery and horror. And I realize as you scream with pain and suffering, you get off on this. You get off on this. This is deeper and darker than any BDSM scene. These are deep attachments to pain as story, as identity, and as a way to navigate the world. Puffs of tobacco are blown over you, and something pulls a long, zigzagging bolt out of your torso. You shudder uncontrollably as it leaves your body, and you begin to feel relief from your deep sadness and suffering. You're dancing in the circle when something pulls you forward in a lurch. At moments, it's the swaying of the waves as you stand on the deck of the ship. At other moments, you are being dragged by a chain around your neck. You whirl in circles and begin dancing your lurching dance. You feel the you that you know to be yourself shrink down to the size of a seed inside your torso. And that tiny part of you is witnessing the larger part being overtaken by another. I'm being danced. I manage to gasp as I spin by. Yes, comes the answer. I go over and see what's happening with the woman who's getting sick. I go, still under the sway of being danced, and the presence that has me dance pauses briefly to allow me to assist the woman. It's a relief to be of service and focus on others. Then once I finish my task, I'm pulled up on my feet again, moving backwards through the ring of dancing bodies. I look over in the corner and I sense the presence of a young man facing the corner, and I intuit immediately discipline and punishment. Sad moments occurred here, and your presence can still be felt. I learned later that the building where we are had once been a juvenile detention facility. I asked my guides what the spirit of possession means, and they ignore the question, changing the subject. Later, I understand that they did me a favor. Mediumship, particularly when it is first flowering, cannot be understood through the narrow funnel of the rational, analytical mind. Just over a year ago, a giant white python first made her appearance on an unseasonably cold night. I feel my hips begin to circle rhythmically without my willing it. And my arms, normally so much a part of my movement, are pasted to my ribs. We are listening to Coco Pelli, sharing his prognostications for the future and the truth of what he is saying about the importance of connection as we begin to move into difficult, uncertain futures, sends waves of pleasure through me. I live at the bottom of the lake, the python says. Come visit me. You will come to know me more and more. Do not be afraid. I am fierce, but I am very loving, and I'm here to heal. The python's dance grows in intensity, and I'm happy to be led. It is delicious to be on the python's ride. I am beautiful, I think. And then I remember that the sight of a 30-foot white anaconda would strike terror in the hearts of most, if not all. And I feel tears coming to my eyes. I don't want to be feared, I think. I want to be loved. Why can't I be a deer or a hummingbird or a rabbit? You see a scene from a Peanuts cartoon, or a scene that flips between two Peanuts cartoons in which the characters are all skating, or they're all in the living room dancing while Schroeder plays his little piano, and you're happy because you like those Peanuts cartoons, and you've always appreciated the simplistic, repetitive quality of those dancing, skating scenes. So you pull the focus in so you can see the scene more clearly. But as you focus in, you see that the characters are all the same. And it's an off-brand Peanut character with a big nose. And even though you've never seen the character before, you think, oh, I hate that character. Oh, so pushy. The group skates and dances towards you, and you fight your feelings of revulsion. They look at you imploringly with their large cartoon eyes and say, we're your children. Love us. Set us free. Begrudgingly at first, but with your heart melting, you send them love and set them free. And the little figures begin to whirl faster and faster until their edges and contours blur and become geometric figures snowflake motifs from ugly Christmas sweaters. Exhaustion overtakes you and you can barely stand. You are back at the fire, now in the middle of the night, and you connect once again to the elemental faith that transcends God or personifications of nature, the pure beating heart and pulse of nature that animates everything, that existed long before humans created religion. Humans created religions as an attempt to understand this deep hum of life force energy. And this is the only real altar that you can bow to, the only true faith there is, and you are filled with delight, reverence, aliveness, and wonder. Thank you.
Thank you, Luz.
Wow. Thank you, Luz. I wanted to leave a little silence at the end of that to just let people let people's energy settle. Yeah, thanks. So we've come to the conclusion of our season 4, episode 3 of Ouroboros Story Hour. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank everyone for sharing your hearts, your ears, your minds, and your stories. And it's always a great privilege to do this. And I'm always scared shitless the night before that it's going to come together, and it does. It's been that way ever since the beginning. So I want to just thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sleepy Eye. Thank you, Navi. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Luz. Thanks, Stanton. Nice to meet you. Cynthia, thank you for coming. Nicole looks like she left. She's a dear friend. Thank you for coming, Nicole.